Hello and welcome to our latest video explaining our new Exploring Happiness article, which is about happiness and wellbeing measures. We have 3 sections to the article. The first is the different types of happiness measures that are out there and that are currently being used by different governments and different organisations. The second part is about the reliability and validity of these measures, because they are seen by some as being subjective, and so they are critiqued quite harshly sometimes. And our final section is about the future of measuring happiness, which looks to the field of neuroscience, which is pretty cool. So this first section, the bit about different happiness measures, the specific questions that governments ask, this is quite detailed, so I'm not going to go into all of that now. There's a main point though that we'd like to get across from this section, and that is that happiness measures fall into 2 kind of categories. The first is happiness in the here and now, and how happy are you this second or this day. And the second type of measure is where they ask questions that are more long-standing, so they look more at kind of overall well-being or life satisfaction or like contentment with life. And these longer term ones are the ones we're more interested in, because they're the ones that governments can actually influence and change and have an impact on. Although you could argue they kind of do for feeling happy in the here and now. People have more of a kind of fluctuating mood, I suppose, and you know, one day you could be feeling a bit down in the dumps, and then the next day you could be feeling super happy. But it can also just sort of depend on the seasons, or you know, there's a lot of things that can influence one person's feeling of happiness in a day.
Stop it!
Sugar, you don't have to lick me. Anyway.
So some of the research in neuroscience at the moment has been comparing objective measures of happiness in a person's brain, so looking at the brain activity, with the subjective measures that we talked about earlier on in the paper, and seeing if they can find a correlation between the 2. And they've managed to do so, showing that people that have higher happiness scores in the subjective measures also have higher measures of brain activity, so it's kind of backed up the fact that the measures themselves are valid. Another research paper has looked at personality traits, because another criticism of happiness measures is that some people are just naturally more happy than others. So you might see that in someone's score they're just always going to have a higher score, but fortunately when you look at happiness measures on a macro scale, so across a whole group of people and then take an average, this doesn't really matter for policy analysis. So because you'll always have a distribution of happiness scores, the point is that you're always just trying to shift that distribution, so that person their personality is always more happy than someone else. They'll always be at the top end of the distribution, but it's just about shifting that distribution up the scale so that people are happier.
Thank you for listening. Well done, you made it to the end. Stay tuned for our next article and accompanying video next month. Our next article is going to be about mental health in the UK, which fits in really nicely with one of the charities we're choosing to donate to this year, which is Mind, the mental health charity. Thank you for listening. Bye.